15 years, the damage that load shedding has brought to this economy has been incalculable.
The death toll from the recent floods in the South African province of KwaZulu-Natal has risen to 49.
After a fairly subdued night, the Knysna fires have begun to grow again.
We begin tonight with a nation already on edge in the coronavirus pandemic as protests turn violent.
London's burning and no one seems able to bring it under control.
You're listening to Off-Grid Survival, South Africa's first prepper podcast.
And we are your hosts, Brett and Ben.
Morning, Ben.
Good morning, Brett.
How's it going?
I'm very well, yourself?
Very good, thanks, mate. Can you believe this is now episode 4?
I can.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it? You know, we've actually had some interaction with some of our listeners on Spotify where they've left messages for us. I'd just like to thank the following people for actually leaving a message and letting us know that they're enjoying our content. So a big shout out to CJ, Divan, Daniel WP, Steve, Suri, and Genevieve. Thank you, guys. We really appreciate the feedback.
Yes, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome to hear from the people that are listening, to know that there are actually people out there listening to us. And we're not just rambling into the ether.
Yeah, it's very nice to know people are finding the content worthwhile. It's different to how we view our own voices and our own content. And the more we have feedback, the more excited we get about the content.
Yeah. No, I agree with you totally. Seeing somebody actually responding to something that you've put out, it does boost the ego a little bit. Just a little bit. Anyway, dude. Yeah, and it's a bit of a crazy world out there. This week, or 2 weeks ago on the garden route, we had a bit of a disaster here in George, where a building under construction collapsed. 62 people were trapped. I believe they managed to rescue 29 people. The rest, unfortunately, are deceased. But a Herculean effort by the municipality and rescue crews that came from all over the Western Cape to help. They cleared that entire site down to the foundation in just over a week, where there's not one piece of rubble there. Congratulations and well done to all the rescue personnel. They worked straight through. They didn't stop at night. They just carried on working, and they did a really, really good job. And our condolences go out to the families. Anybody that lost a family member in that? Never a pleasant thing.
Yeah.
And then in Gauteng, they've been having a swarm of minor earth tremors in the last couple of days. I think I saw something up in Standerton.
You don't know what it's from?
That one was at about 9 kilometers so deep, from what I read. So it wouldn't be from mining. It is tectonic, I believe. It's a minor fault system up there. Yeah, we're not in Gauteng. I've experienced an earthquake maybe once in my life in Cape Town, and I've got no idea what it actually feels like. So please feel free to send us a message on Facebook or Instagram and let us know what the earthquakes are like up there. Obviously it's not the same as the San Francisco and Los Angeles quakes that those guys have. And I don't think we really need to worry too much about essential services being disrupted in South Africa by earthquakes. But is it something we need to prep for in South Africa? Let us know.
Yeah. Please do. Okay,
today we're going to do a bit of a deeper dive into Bugout Bags. So, Ben...
So what is a Bugout Bag? In your opinion, what is a Bugout Bag?
Well, in my opinion, it's probably one of your most essential pieces of equipment. It's a bag that's packed with everything you consider essential and important.
Yeah.
That you can just grab in an emergency. The Merriam-Webster dictionary describes a bug-out bag as a bag packed with survival supplies such as food, water, medication, flashlights, and kept ready for use in case of an emergency that requires rapid evacuation.
Okay. So would you keep one for yourself and one for your partner, or one for every member of your family?
So I think that every member of the family should have a bug-out bag. Even if you've got small kids, and we'll get into...
Yeah, because I don't want nappies in my one.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously a kid's bug-out bag is going to be very different to an adult's bug-out bag.
Yeah.
Where a standard bug-out bag for an adult, let's talk about a 24-hour bug-out bag.
Yeah.
So you being told you have to evacuate because of flood or fire or some other such scenario, but you're not going to be away from home for too long. Then we'd use the standard 24-hour bug-out bag. So the classic bag has a change of clothes, 24 hours worth of rations, and as well as a flashlight, a knife, a small first aid kit, and maybe even a little survival kit, depending on what kind of bugging out you're going to be doing. Quite often in a bug out situation like that, you're not going to be going into the bush.
Yeah.
You're going to be trying to find a hotel or going to a friend's house or somewhere safe away from where things are happening.
So when you say a change of clothing, do you mean all the clothing or just like rami and something, socks? Or are you looking at a full change of clothing and maybe something warm? Or how detailed?
So, look, it is also seasonal.
Yeah.
So in summer, you might not have warm jackets or a warm jacket in your bug-out bag. But we don't have the same kind of conditions that they have overseas, as we've discussed before.
Yeah.
We don't have to worry about thick layers of snow on the ground and having to have special boots and massive down jackets and Gore-Tex and that sort of thing. So, especially down here in the Western Cape, where it's a fairly temperate, almost tropical climate on some days.
Yeah.
You've just got to have comfortable clothes, something that you're going to be comfortable in. Having a warm jacket, of course, is always a good idea. As far as I'm concerned, you should always have a jacket and a waterproof. It doesn't matter where you're hiking or whether you're going anywhere. You never know what the weather's going to do.
And you got some really nice thin waterproofs.
Yeah.
And a windbreaker isn't waterproof. Waterproof is like a proper downpour.
Yeah.
Something with sealed seams is a waterproof.
Yeah. Anybody that's ever lived in Cape Town can tell you just that by driving around the mountain, you can have 4 seasons in one day. And there's other places in the country that are similar, where weather can change very rapidly.
Yeah.
Even here on the garden route, you can be having a lovely 30-degree day. It gets to 5 o'clock and all of a sudden a mist pulls in and the temperature just drops. I've experienced that quite a few times here.
And with your 24-hour rations, are you talking about like a full meal or one of these 24-hour ration MREs, or just like the guys say, a tub of peanut butter?
So I've made my own 24-hour ration packs. You can purchase them. You can buy the classic old army-style rat packs.
Yeah.
But I found that making my own, I could choose what I wanted to go into it. So, for instance, my rat packs have got, or my ration packs that I've built, you get packet tuna now. It's basically a Mylar bag, vacuum sealed with tuna in it. So you don't have to worry about a can.
Yes.
So those pack nice and flat. They've got about a 2-year shelf life. So I've got a packet of that in there. It doesn't have to be refrigerated.
Not having a refrigerator, not needing to refrigerate is awesome.
Yeah. And then Future Life makes these little sachets of oats and sachets of porridge. The porridge is probably a better option because with that you just need to add water. It doesn't have to be hot.
Yes.
So you don't have to worry about heating anything. And then for dinner, I've got a civilian version of a military heat in a bag meal.
Okay.
And I got it from our friends at Bugout SA, and it came with a flameless ration heater as well, which is really cool. It's basically a bag with a pouch inside it. It's vacuum sealed. You open it up, add about half a cup of water, and a chemical reaction starts. You drop your bag of food in there, leave it for 5 minutes, and you've got a hot meal. Don't have to worry about gas stoves. Don't have to worry about starting a fire.
Yeah.
Great product.
But I suppose the 24-hour ration also is determined on the person. It's like I eat like once or twice a day, and other people eat like 4 times a day.
No, definitely. But also remember, when you're in a emergency situation, for a lot of people, food is something that is comforting.
Yes.
So having things like a couple of sachets of maybe hot chocolate or coffee.
Definitely coffee.
Well, it's always coffee.
Fresh coffee is wonderful, but the bag stuff is awesome.
I also found little sachets of peanut butter. Yum Yum Peanut Butter makes little sachets. They're awesome because you can literally just tear an end off, stick it in your mouth, and you've got some peanut butter goodness. And it gives you that bit of protein boost, obviously if you're not allergic to peanuts. And that also comes in a chocolate version. And then I've also got a bar one. Always got to have a bar one for that 25-hour day.
I preferred all-in-ones, but they stopped making them now, I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Yeah. And then I've got a couple of other things in my ration pack, just little personal things. But 3 meals for me, for one person, is good. The entire lot weighs just under a kilo.
Yeah. I bought one of those SA Army style 24-hour packs once, and just to try. And it comes even with the little Esbit stove fuel tab, so that you can. It's self-contained, everything you need for that day.
Yes,
I think some of them even come with like a sachet of water, so that everything is contained.
Yeah, I have seen those sachets of water. I don't actually have any myself. I've got a Sawyer Mini, which is in my kit.
Yes.
And I've got a 2-liter bladder that can be filled,
Okay. Nice.
like a hydration pack.
Yes.
It doesn't stay filled, which is maybe something I need to look at.
Yeah. Having the knowledge of cleaning water is probably more important than stockpiling the water. Having water obviously is important, but yeah.
Yes.
Having that knowledge as part of your bug out.
Well, yeah, as a part of a bug out bag, you need to have things that you're going to take with you.
Yeah.
So as with any kind of hiking scenario, 2 liters of water per day per person is a good option. That's for drinking, not for hygiene purposes. That is literally just for drinking, for hydration.
Yeah. The big thing is a lot of people don't understand how much water you go through cooking and making coffee. That's besides the water that you want to drink.
That's it, yeah.
And then cleaning yourself is also, even if you use the old 2-liter ice cream tin, like a thing, and washing that.
Yeah. So again, going back to our bug out bags, I think you can have a variety of stuff in it. But with regard to South African context, again, with clothing, I'd say that a typical 24-hour bug out bag should have at least one change of clothes. Definitely underwear. So I think long, sturdy pants, not jeans. Jeans are heavy. You can get really good cargo pants.
Yeah.
I think Johnson Workwear does some ones that are really sturdy.
Yeah, they're nice cotton. I generally buy those ones because thinking in terms of firefighting and stuff, you want cotton.
Yeah.
They're hard wearing and they're resistant to, especially if you're going to be making fire and being around fire.
Yeah. And then also, guys like Mr. Price, their outdoor section, there's Mr. Price Sport, have got some really nice ripstop cargo style pants.
Yeah.
And of course, your usual shops like Cape Mart and Outdoor Warehouse have got their own brands.
I just find a lot of those brands that do the cargo, as soon as you put anything in your pockets, you can't move.
Yeah.
And the Johnson, the legendary ones, I can put 2 phones in one pocket and keys and everything in another pocket and still do a squat.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And then what else can we put in there? Let's say, a t-shirt, and as you said, a windproof or waterproof jacket.
Yeah.
Wind chill will get you faster than anything else. If you need something that can block the wind. And then mine has an extra pair of thick socks as well as a normal pair of socks.
Okay.
Because cold feet are the worst.
Yeah. It also gives you an opportunity, if you have a form of soap in your bug-up bag, that you can take this 24-hour change of clothing and you can extend it through weeks because you're wearing one and you're washing one set of clothes.
If you got to that point where you're now going past 24 hours, having a couple of little extra things that will make life easier is definitely going to make a difference. And then I've always got a first aid kit.
Yeah.
Everything my EDC has got a first aid kit. My car's got a first aid kit. I've got 3 first aid kits at home. Drives the wife a bit crazy, but because she says there's always first aid kits lying all over the place.
And it doesn't make you paranoid. It just makes you prepared.
So a small first aid kit, some gauze, triangular bandage, roller bandage, some disinfectant, plasters. Everybody always cuts himself. So one thing that goes from a first aid kit first is the plasters. So make sure you got lots of plasters.
Also make sure that I've got enough of those alcohol wipes, the Providine iodine wipes, and just like the soap towelettes.
Okay.
They take very little space, and that's the stuff you use more because if you can clean it fast, you don't get the infection.
And if you don't have to use your drinking water, even better.
Exactly.
And then obviously gloves. Gloves are essential nowadays, especially in a South African context.
Yes.
And I have a CPR mouthpiece in all of mine. Even though we're moving away from using CPR mouthpieces now, I still have one in my first aid kits. And then if you know how to use one properly, a tourniquet. If you don't know how to use one, don't use one. Rather get the training and know how to use a tourniquet, because if you apply a tourniquet in the wrong place, you can actually cause more damage than not.
And that's the thing, when we talk about an IFAC, part of that is the knowledge. So getting a level 1 or getting a level 3 first aid certificate. So you at least have that knowledge. If you've done it once in your life, you're better off than someone who's never done it. And it gives you a resource you can access when it's a panic station.
100%. So what else can you have in your bug-out bag?
Wet wipes.
Wet wipes, always good.
Yeah.
They work better than bog roll.
A lighter and flint.
So I consider that like the lighter and the flint thing to go into like a mini survival kit that'll be part of your bug out bag.
Yeah,
which
I
will
got
be
one.
a separate. With my one, I've got it actually as a separate box. I've got a whole lot of, you can call them gadgets.
Yeah.
My bits and bobs are all in that box.
That's what they call a possibles bag. So I've got a possibles bag with some of these little breakout things that have got hooks and stuff in. And I've got a ferrocerium rod, and I've got a couple of those unblown up bottles, those tubes, with some salt and washing liquid, oil, and Vaseline. I take some Zambac and put it in Vaseline and shove it in there. And then one that's got a whole bunch of cotton wool shoved in. And you can light a fire with the cotton wool and the Vaseline, or you can, because the Vaseline's got Zambac in it, you can put it on your lips if they're chapped.
Okay, that's clever. I haven't thought of that before. Nice. Flashlight. How many flashlights have you got, dude?
On me?
No, in your Bugout bag.
On me, I got 2. My chest rig has 1. My Bugout bag doesn't have anything in because I've carried all of them on me.
Yeah.
The big thing about flashlights, well, call them torches. We're getting very Americanized. I started with lead lenser back in the day, and they got like AAA and AA. And I found the things were always flat when I needed them.
Yeah.
And so I've transitioned my torches away from, and headlamps and stuff, away from that type of stuff to the 18650 cells.
The rechargeable ones.
Yeah. They higher capacity, they last longer. I bought an Energizer one at Agri for like $500. It came with a 18650 and 2 of the non-rechargeables with it. So I've done a 7-day hike on that cheap torch and the headlamp, using it all the time. And it lasted 7 days and was still going. And my 2 backup lights, which are way more expensive, I just used on the last day because everyone else's torches were flat. And we walked down the mountain in the dark. So it was great.
Yeah. Now, I find that the problem with using penlight batteries and AAA batteries is that they're great in the beginning, but they tend to drop off quite quickly.
Yeah.
Whereas with those rechargeable cells, they seem to have a longer, sustained, same brightness.
Yeah, they run fine till they're flat. Yeah. And then they go off. You know, a normal AA will slowly get dimmer, so you'll notice it getting dimmer. Yeah. And that's where 2 of my torches are the night core torches, and they will actually tell me the voltage of the cell inside it. So if you disconnect and reconnect it, it flashes to tell you the voltage. Yeah. And I've got ways of charging them. One is a little charger that you can use at a power bank. If you just put the 18650, and some of the cells, you just put a micro USB into it and you charge it. Okay. And so you have different ways that you can carry, that you can charge and utilize that charge, which is important.
So do you prefer using a headlamp or a handheld?
Depends on the situation. Most of the time, I have one of the Energizer one is a handheld headlamp, so you can unclip it from the headband. Okay. So it's in my pocket all the time, and I use it constantly, and it's got multiple brightnesses, and it's cheap. The most important part I find with like a headlamp is having something that can't switch on easily in your bag and also has red, because
I was going to get there.
if you reading a map, let's not even talk about operational security, but if you're just reading a map or doing something around your tent or something like that, and you put on a 1,000 lumen headlamp, you can't see anything for 15 minutes afterwards.
That's it.
You know, so, and you can't read any white paper up close. Yeah. So then what you have to do is stand with your hand over the lens and just allow a little bit of light onto so having red is awesome. It allows you to see the world around you in the dark and have enough light reflected at you that you can avoid obstacles.
And another interesting thing I learned the other day regarding red lights on headlamps is that they don't attract insects.
Very important.
And if you're in a area that has got a lot of mozzies or midges and stuff like that, the last thing you need is walking around or standing at the braai with a headlamp and getting bombarded in the face with insects. There's nothing worse. So having that red light makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, mozzies are irritating at the best of times, but when you breathe them in, they're
not pleasant.
Yeah, and not to belabor the point of torches, though, it is very important that I found being around campers and hikers and stuff, learn torch etiquette. Yes. Everybody wants to shine their torch so they can see the world. The problem is it's in everybody's eyes. Yeah. Learn how to shine it at the ground.
Yeah. So one thing that I remember, especially hiking at night, is we were hiking on Lion's Head and we didn't have any torches. It was a full moon hike.
Yeah.
And we'd actually been told to leave our torches at home because you don't need them. There's enough ambient light. And then you get these guys coming along with these bright torches, and they can't see anything except for what's in that cone of light.
Yes.
Where we could see all the stars, we could see the moon, we could see everything. It was amazing. And they were going, it's so dark, it's so dark. And they've got these huge, 1,000 lumen torches.
Yeah.
And they ruin the entire experience for themselves. So yes, that comes down to torch etiquette.
Yeah. And also, you probably found doing that hike that you learn how to see stuff in the dark.
Very quickly.
When you talk about the cones and rods in your eyes, at night, don't look at what you're trying to see. Look past it. To look to the left or right, so that it focuses on the rods instead of the cones.
Yeah.
And then you can see more. And if you're not trying to, you're almost looking at what you can't see. Yes. So as you move, things shadow the stuff behind it. So you start to get your depth
perception back. Yeah. Okay, I think that's enough about torches for now.
Yeah, probably.
My next favorite subject, knives.
I like sharp things.
I know. So, as you know, I also like sharp things, and I've got quite a few knives lying around all over the place and on me. What do you think would be better for a bug-out bag? A folder or a fixed blade?
I don't know. Depends. Are you a type of person that uses a knife, or do you have a knife on you normally? I have on my person, I've got 4 knives. I've got 2 in my bag, and they're both fixed blades. Okay. And I've got 2 folders on me.
Yeah.
The one fixed blade I made, and I can baton it through a piece of wood, and the other one's more a miniature skinner. And so I can do a range of stuff. If you're the type of person that doesn't carry any knife, then you want a knife that fits your hand, you can use for various uses.
An all-round knife.
Yes. So you don't want to look at your fine bevel, like a fine grind, because if you try and baton with that, you're going to break it.
Yeah.
There's ways you can use a little Victorinox for batoning, but you're going to bugger it up.
Yes. So I've always got a knife on me. I carry a folder in my pocket, and then I've got my EDC blade that I also carry. But in my bug-out bag, I've got a fixed blade and a Victorinox, as you said, as well as my Leatherman.
Yeah, having a multi-tool like that.
So I have multiple tools as well as a multi-tool. I've got knives, and I've got something that has got other tools on it. So the multi-tool is I consider a separate thing that just happens to have a knife on it.
Yeah.
Whereas my fixed blade, that is if I need to, like you said, chop down some wood or start a fire, I can use that for chopping wood. My Victorinox, it's very sharp. I can use it for cutting fine things if I need to. My
mini surgery, get splinters out.
Yeah. It's a Victorinox. It's got tweezers. It's got, most importantly, a bottle opener and a corkscrew, and many other things as well.
You plan on finding lots of bottle of wine where you...
There's always a bottle of wine somewhere. It's next to the packet with the coffee.
Show me this place that you're going to that has those.
But yeah, having a knife in your bug-out bag is important. But make sure it's a knife that, like you said, fits comfortably in your hand and something that you've used before. Don't just get a product, buy it, put it in a bag, and never touch it. And this goes for everything that we're talking about. Whether it's a first aid kit, a torch, any survival equipment, understand what you have in your bug-out bag. Not knowing how something works is going to be an even bigger problem further down the line.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've got this caliber knife.
Yeah.
A folder in my pocket, and I've bought it at Cape Unimart years ago, and it's got the normal locking system that you can open with one hand and close with one hand. And I have deburred pieces of metal, I've deburred stuff, I've knocked it through pieces of wood and everything else. It's got a weird Tanto type look to it, and it's affordable, so I don't mind sharpening it on a rock.
Yeah.
If you're one of those guys that wants to buy 10 grand knives, you're going to cry if you ever have to sharpen that thing on a rock. And in a bug-out situation, you might need to.
That's it, yeah.
Coming back to the bug-out bag, is I have one of those little collapsible sharpening stones that they use for sharpening hooks and stuff. So
one of those diamond-coated ones. Yeah, those things are great.
And they take no space in your bag.
Then probably the most important part of the bug-out bag is the bag itself. Because not having a bag that you've used or that you're comfortable with if you are in a situation where you do have to walk distance, you need something that is comfortable. You know, you don't just want a grotty old school bag that is going to cut into your shoulders, it's got no lumbar support, it's got no chest strap, no waist strap. Look at getting a bag that is a decent hiking style bag, either a top loader or a zip open one. My particular one that I'm using at the moment is a 35 liter. It's a zip open. It's got multiple pouches. I love that bag because it's very versatile. It is a military style bag. So it's got Moly strapping on the outside.
Yeah.
The disadvantage with that bag is that it's not very grey, man. It stands out as a military looking bag.
Yes.
Where a more hiking style bag will help you blend into a crowd easier if need be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you wanted to make it look more like a hiking style bag, you can make a little pullover, like a fitted sheet type cover.
Yeah.
That will pull
one
over.
of those waterproof covers or something like that.
Yeah. And it'll just look like you're a hiker.
Yeah.
I also have about a 35 kilo bag. I've hunted with it and stuff, and I've got waterproofs, my little camping pot set with gas and stove and everything else in it. So my whole bag is set up so that I can pick it up and go hunting. I can pick it up and go hiking. I can pick it up and go camp. And it's got everything I need to be able. It's even got a tin of bully beef and whatever in it. So, and I haven't set it up for bug out as such. It's just so I know that I've got like a tog bag and that bag. If I pick those two up, I've got everything I need.
Everything you need, yeah. And that's the important thing. When it comes to bug out bags for kids, though, they're not going to be carrying as much weight as we are.
Yeah.
So they're not going to be carrying things like food and knives and cooking equipment necessarily.
Of course they are. I mean, you've got to have packed meals.
Or maybe your kids. But yeah, for smaller kids, then having a Barney the Dinosaur or Barbie bag that's got a change of clothes, a coloring in book, and some cookies is going to be fine for them. And maybe some snacks.
Also getting them used to walking with a bag. So go for a walk on the beach, go for a walk in a park or what. But let them carry their bag, and if it's got 5 kilos on it or 10 kilos in it, it starts getting them hiking fit, bag fit, because that's one of the things you need to be used to breathing with weight on your shoulders, is your intercostal muscles get tired if you're not used to it.
So this also segues nicely into the next subject of those of us that carry weapons. And when I say weapons, I'm talking about firearms. And prepping in South Africa with regard to firearms is very different to our friends in the States. We've got very different laws to them, and we will be getting into a much deeper dive on firearms at a later point. But needless to say, you can't store a firearm in your bug out bag in the lounge.
No.
Your firearm has to be stored in a secure place. It has to be stored in a safe. So
it's on you?
Either on you or in the safe, yeah. So please, we do not recommend anybody storing firearms in their bug out bag, but have it easily available that in a bug out situation, you can get it quickly.
But there's nothing stopping you having a bigger bug out safe that has your bag with gun and everything pre-packed.
That's another option.
It's in a safe.
Yeah. So where I was talking about a segue here is that what is your loadout? If you've got a belt with a holster on it, now you're carrying a backpack. Have you ever tried drawing a weapon while wearing a backpack?
Yeah.
It's not as easy as just, having your gun on your belt, is it?
Yeah. And what you don't understand is when you've been carrying like a 30 kilo pack or 25 kilo pack hiking, you kind of get that like lame feeling in your legs.
Yeah.
When you're carrying a gun belt with mags and a gun and everything on you, and then weight on it, you have very little sensation left in your hips and your legs. It presses in all the wrong places. So having a transition holster, so have a little bag that you can take your gun out of your holster, put it in the bag.
Yeah.
So that's either in a chest rig or something else. Again, concealable, because in South Africa, not like in the States, you have to carry your gun visible. In South Africa, you have to have it concealed. But then again, you need to be aware of the legalities of everything before you start.
Definitely,
doing it. You need to be in control of that firearm at all times. You can't have it slung across, have the holster strapped to the back of your bag because you're not in control of the firearm.
But here's an idea. How about going to the range, doing a range day, and taking your full rig with you? So take your bug out bag with you, take your gun belt, your full loadout with you, load up at the range, and see what it's like at the range with your bag and what is going to suit you best. That's a safe place to do it, and you can have a range day.
Yeah. It becomes dangerous because you always have to be aware where your muzzle's pointed.
Definitely.
And the more bulky you are, the harder it is to draw, but the way more dangerous it is to reholster because you have all these articles of clothing that are trying to get in the way of your trigger.
Obviously, check with your range officer first before you do something like this.
And having a range officer with you that can, as you're trying to reholster, make sure that you're not getting an article of clothing trapped in your trigger guard, because that's one way to put a hole in you.
Definitely.
And you won't be invited back.
Yeah, you're going to end up on Brandon Herrera's, what is it? The Darwin Awards.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then when it comes to large weapons, large firearms, for guys that weren't in the army or haven't done a lot of hunting, carrying a rifle or a shotgun, people don't realize how heavy those weapons actually are. And if you end up in a situation where you're going to be walking long distances, carrying a 12 gauge pump action shotgun with 8 rounds in it is a heavy weapon. And you've, like, as you said earlier, you've always got to be in control of the weapon. You can't just sling it over your back and a backpack.
Well, the other thing is you got to look at, if you're walking out somewhere, well, let's assume you're going from an urban environment, you can't walk with an open shotgun.
Exactly.
So you've got different firearm transportation bags and boxes, and to choose something that doesn't look like what it is useful.
Yeah.
So if your shotgun fits into a guitar case, it might be nicer, like the old Tommy gun in a violin case type thing.
Taking weight into account is what a lot of people don't think of about weapons.
Yeah, they're heavy and they drag you down. Now you've got 25, 30 kilos on your shoulders, and then you've got a rifle and a shotgun, if you're so inclined, across your shoulders. If you're walking through the bush, you might walk with your shotgun in your hands if there is a possibility of trouble.
That's fine to do on private land, but as soon as you start walking in public with a long gun,
it has to be concealed.
It has to be concealed. Yeah, you're going to just make yourself, firstly, a massive target for law enforcement, and if you're trying to get out of an area, the last thing you want is a cop stopping you.
Yeah, and everybody else is going to be reporting you or trying to take it from you.
This is not a country where people generally walk around with large weapons.
We do. You just don't see it.
You just don't see it.
A lot of the people that you actually encounter every day have got a firearm on them, but we have to have it concealed.
But yeah, you're not going to get somebody walking around with a R4 or a shotgun in the street.
Well, security guys do.
But they're generally licensed, yeah.
But you'll notice that a lot of the security guys have their pistol on their
chest rig.
Yeah, the chest rig, because if you're wearing bulletproof, it starts getting in the way of a side carry holster.
Yeah. It's amazing that our cops all have them on their left or right hip. I am noticing more guys going away from the belt and more down tactical.
Yes.
On the thigh, but you don't see the SAPS guys with them on chest rigs. Yeah, just private security.
From a person who I've done competition shooting, and I'm not a thin rake of a person. The rounder you are, the harder it is to draw a firearm safely and reholster it safely, and not strafe yourself with your muzzle, because you're having to reach around your voluptuous love handles to get it into the. So that's where like combat rigs and stuff, they sit away from your body, are safer to use, but they're not easy to conceal.
Yeah, definitely. Then with regard to our rigs and our loadouts, we then have comms. So our traditional comms that every single person in South Africa carries is your cell phone. Okay, but cell phones might not be working. As you said with the 2017 fires, the cell masts actually burnt down.
Yes.
So you had to resort to using your backups, which was your handheld radios.
Yeah. And not, that we're talking about like a natural disaster like that, and we're not trying to go down the paranoid route of going, what if they want to switch you off? So if it's coordinated, reduce comms down to 0, and they are switched off, That's the easiest way to control a populace.
That's what happened in Egypt during the Arab Spring. They literally turned off all the cell towers.
Yeah.
So the guys had the only way of communication via cell phone was the couple of people that still had Wi-Fi access.
Yeah. But there's also apps on your phone that can talk. You can communicate Bluetooth.
Yes.
So I can send a message to somebody on the Bluetooth network, and it'll bounce from phone to phone to that.
Yeah.
But you need a higher population density type scenario.
Our handheld radios that we got. I know you've got a couple. You've got Zartag. You've got Baofeng. I've got a couple of Baofeng radios. The little 3-watt and 5-watt handhelds with 16 channel. With regard to the radios that most people can legally carry in this country, what do you recommend? You've got a bit more experience with this than I do.
Well, you get the Zartec radios or like the Baofeng 888s.
Yeah.
You get a lot of, as long as you can keep to the free channels and the power rating, they're free to use and stuff. If you want to go for your amateur radio license, operator's license and stuff, you can start playing with higher wattages. Knowing how to program your radios, it might come in handy to be able to talk between, like a Baofeng 888 has their standard range of frequencies.
Okay.
Within the free brand, and the Zartec has a different range.
Yes.
Now, be able to, if you've got a group, be able to put everybody on the same frequency, even if you have one of your channels that is a standard frequency within that free range. Obviously, if you have a end of the world scenario, the legalities affect people less, or people are less concerned about it.
Less concerned, yeah.
But a lot of these like cheapy radios,
the little 16 channel jobs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about like the kiddies radios.
Oh, kiddies radios.
You can oftentimes program you can't program them, but you can program your radios to talk to them.
Okay.
So you find a lot of overlap.
Yes.
And to know enough about your group and the people around you to know that you have at least one channel that the majority of the people can talk on. And then you can always relay the information further.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I know very little about radios. I've got my very basic comm setup. And after that, I'm a bit in the dark. And I must admit, I'm looking forward to speaking to somebody that has a lot more knowledge about radios.
Yeah, we definitely need to find somebody that we can interview that has a lot more knowledge than we have on,
especially on the legality side as well. We try to avoid getting into trouble with law enforcement.
Yeah, it's always best that way. So, what else do you think a person needs in a bug-out bag?
So, I think with regard to your standard 24-hour bug-out bag, there's two different ways of going about it. You either build your own, as we've been discussing now, or you can buy ready-made bug-out bags. There's companies out there that will customize them for you.
Okay.
So you say, you want a solar panel, a charger, a knife, a sleeping bag, some rations, and they will put something together for you that works.
So basically you throw a budget at them.
Yes. Again, keep mentioning them. Bugout SA, they do something similar to this. You can get hold of them and they'll put something together for you. Just as with anything else, like I said earlier, when you get it, take everything out of its packaging, work out how to use it, read the instructions, and then repack the bag yourself so that you know what is in the bag.
Yeah, I generally find that it's a useful thing for, even with your IFAC, any first aid kit you buy, open it up, see what is in there, and take out the gloves that they put in there and buy nitrile gloves to put in.
Yeah. And
put extra pairs in. Because the latex or the funny, I don't even know what they call it. Vinyl gloves. I've been at an accident where we used the contents of 3 first aid kits feeding the nurse who was on scene, and she still had blood on her hands with 3 pairs of gloves on because they kept ripping.
Yeah, those vinyl gloves that are in those first aid kits are absolutely terrible.
And we went through every single bandage that we had trying to stop the bleeding. So know what is in your bag, and then put the stuff in that you like. In my bags, I have antihistamine tablets and water purification tablets standard in it.
So the one thing that I'm talking about first aid kits now that I added into all of my first aid kits, because none of them came with it, was Burn Shield.
Yeah. Got Burn Shield.
I made a point of adding Burn Shield and, like you said, extra gloves
And sting,
extra plasters.
you get like a anti-sting wipe type thing.
No, those things are great.
Very useful.
So I think that pretty much covers your standard 24-hour bug out bag. Then you get different types of bags for different scenarios. Yeah. So you can go from a 24-hour bag to a 48-hour bag to a 72-hour bag. Your essentials stay the same. Okay,
so would you consider all your personal documents, like a copy of your ID, copy of your passport if you have it, or whatever?
Definitely. So certified copies of ID, passport, marriage certificate, any insurance documents that you think you might need. You can get certified copies of those done maybe at the police station or a commissioner of oath. Have those in a waterproof bag, Ziploc bag, in your bug out bag. Those will save you a world of trouble further down the line. As I said previously in one of the other episodes, if you've got a chance to get the stuff out of your safe, take the stuff out of your safe.
Yes.
But if you don't have that time and you've just got time to grab your bag, at least you've got something.
Yes. Would you maybe make digital copies and put them on a flash drive and carry that with you?
That's also an option, but you don't know whether you'll have a chance to print those out. Also, a digital copy is not certified.
Yes. Well, you can make a copy of a digital.
Yeah, but having an original certified copy is always a lot easier if you have to go back to Home Affairs because you need to get a new ID.
Yeah, and don't skim. Do color.
Yeah,
color copies,
and just put them in a Ziploc bag. Put that in your pack somewhere safe. It'll cost you a little bit in the beginning, but down the road it'll save you a lot.
Or do you think a person should keep any type of money, a form of currency?
I do. I think cash is still king, and in an emergency situation, it'll definitely be king.
Yes.
Because if the power is out, the ATMs aren't going to be working. Okay. Yeah. Very few ATMs have got backup batteries. If the power is out, credit card machines aren't going to last very long. There's going to be no signal for them to get through. So shops are not going to be accepting card. We're moving more and more towards a cashless society, but having cash on you at all times is important. Even if it's just a couple of $100.
Yeah, but what about the hole that it keeps burning in your wallet?
You need to forget about it. So don't put it in your wallet.
It keeps calling to me.
Yeah, no, it's difficult. There's different things that you can do. Either carry, like I said, a couple of $100, 200 Rand can get you very far. It'll get you a meal. It'll maybe get you a night at a hotel. Although nowadays, I think it's about 600 Rand for a night at a hotel. But in an emergency situation, a couple of $100 is going to get you a lot further than having nothing.
Yes.
Have that packed away in your little survival kit that you've got in your bag. In a little waterproof baggie. Leave it there. Forget about it. Okay. But it's there when you need it. If you want to go one step further, you can then go maybe get some foreign currency and get yourself a couple of dollars. Keep that in there. Dollar is going to generally, when there's been things like hyperinflation in countries and currencies have collapsed, it's been replaced with the US dollar.
Yes.
So having $10 or $20 doesn't sound like a lot, but it can go a long way.
Yes.
At the very least, you can use it to grease a couple of palms.
Yeah, in Africa, that's very important.
Yeah.
Now, that's sort of the currency out. What about another type of currency? Silver, gold, jewelry, something like that?
So I am not unopposed to carrying or to having bullion. I think that it does have its place. But in a general bug out situation, in a short-term situation, having bullion with you, you're not going to be able to go to the petrol station and pay for petrol with a 1 ounce silver coin. And who's going to give you change on a Kruger Rand? The current valuation on a 1 ounce Kruger Rand is over 40,000 Rand. Yes, having it is great. It is an investment. I am not a financial advisor. Please do not take this as financial advice. But I don't see anything wrong with having precious metals. But in a short-term situation, it's virtually useless.
And what about like a pack of smokes as a currency?
That is more valuable than a gold coin because a packet of cigarettes can get you through a lot of doors. Offering a guy a smoke, offering a security guard a smoke, offering a cop a smoke, it might get you, like I said the other day, might get you a packet of chips or another meal or a liter of water. It's
preferential treatment.
Or preferential treatment. You're making a buddy with the guy.
Yeah.
That'll get you through a lot more doors than a silver coin or a gold coin. I'm not saying don't get them, but if you're going to be in a bug out situation where you are maybe leaving the country or leaving your area and you're not going to be coming back, that is a good investment to have because they hold their value.
Yeah.
and you can go anywhere in the world with silver or gold and exchange it for paper money.
Yes.
Whereas in an emergency situation where there's been a fire or a flood, like I said, you're not going to be able to pay for a tank of fuel with a coin. The guy at the petrol station's not going to take it.
Yeah, and also, once you get to a place where the flood or the localized emergency doesn't affect you, you can access all your stuff. You just need to get there.
You just need to get there, yes.
Yeah, might need to fill up your vehicle to be able to get out the Dodge,
Which is why you should have cash.
Exactly. Or so, preferably a 5 liter of fuel.
Everybody will take cash. It doesn't matter where you are in the world.
Yeah.
So there's going to be somebody that's going to take your cash. Okay. You'll be able to buy fuel. You'll be able to buy food. The exchange might be horrendous, but you'll be able to use your cash. Whereas with bullion, it's a lot harder to exchange.
Yeah, you have to find people that will say it and hope they're not ripping you off.
Well, that's the thing, that it's a gold coin, but the guy that's taking it from you, he doesn't know what its true value is. There's very few people out there that do know the true value of metals and whether they are 999.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if you have Bitcoin or one of the digital currencies and you have your wallet number or whatever it is in your safe, it doesn't help you. You need a way of being able to transport or have it stored in such a way that you can access it away from your...
So I'll be honest, I am not a fan of digital currency. I'm too old school for that. I don't know. There's just something about them I don't trust. I know a lot of people are fully into Bitcoin and all the other ones, but yeah, I've seen them grow on the stock market. I've seen how high they've got, and it's amazing. Good luck to the people that have got them, but I will stick to the good old-fashioned stuff.
Well, the Bitcoin is awesome if you have access to the internet.
Yeah, if you've got no access to the internet, it's absolutely worthless to you.
Yeah, exactly. And the internet banking goes down, you're messed. You can't do banking. You can't exchange your currency in your wallet for anything.
Yeah,
and that's why you need physical.
Exactly.
And you can't barter with something that's not a physical.
That's why cash is king.
Yeah, and or having something that's worth cash.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about the currencies, might not be like a money currency. It might be bags of cabbages that you're bartering.
So we're talking short-term scenarios here.
Yeah.
So in a short-term scenario, like you said earlier, smokes, some extra food.
Spare knife.
I'd
be loath to get rid of a spare knife.
I'm opposed to giving away anything that can be used as a weapon because it can always be used against you.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of trading ammo and trading knives and stuff like that. Keep it simple and don't let people know what you've got.
Yeah, ideal. And that's something for everyday life as well. Is when you go to pay for something in cash, don't flash your roll of banknotes.
Yeah.
Have a way of putting the stuff that you, like some of the wallets have 2 pockets. So you can keep a small change in the one and the other, the big in a zip pocket, so no one can see it.
No, that's good advice. I think we've covered quite a lot today. Is there anything else that you can think of offhand?
Well, seeing you didn't cover shoes in your Bugout bag, don't you think Crocs are a worthwhile addition? I know you don't like Crocs.
Oh, my boy.
But that's
obviously a stout pair of shoes is important for your initial bagging out. So a good pair of hiking boots, a strong pair of tackies. But having a secondary pair of shoes in case you need to go to the bathroom at night and you don't want to walk around barefoot and you don't want to put on a pair of boots. A pair of plackies works, but I know people love Crocs. I loathe them. Apparently they are great.
Oh, come on, you can wear your bright green socks and with the pink Crocs and they're just so stylish.
Yeah, you're going to blend right in, dude.
Yeah.
Anyway. Okay, I think that's enough for now. We'll see you next week.
Oh, that'll be great.
Cool. Cheers, dude.
Cheers. Keep well.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Off-Grid Survival. For more info and updates, feel free to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Off-Grid Survival ZA. That's it for now. We will see you next time. And always remember, be prepared.